chief guest and worthy principal. Good evening and Assalamu alaikum delegates, distinguished staff and honorable guests. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the closing ceremony for the 12th edition of the ACMUN College Model United Nations Conference. We'll begin with the recitation of the Holy Quran by Hassan Malik.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم.
Now you are all requested to rise for the national anthem.
These past 4 days have been a resounding success, with delegates participating from Benin, from India, the United States of America, Turkey, Sri Lanka, and more. We overcame the online and physical barrier by creating an immersive experience that catered to each and every delegate. But for this, we have nobody else to thank but our Directorate. So I would request our Directorate, as I call out your name, to come to the front of the stage to be recognized. First of all, our Directorate Operations. Second of all, our Directorate for Promotions. Third, our Directorate for Publications. The Directorate for the Crisis Management. The Directorate for Outstations. The Directorate for Coordinations. The Directorate of Liaisons. The Directorate of the Logistics. Our Director's Socials. Our Director's Creativity. Our Director Finance. Our Director ITs. Our Directors for Security. Our Directors for Hospitality. And finally, our Directors for Media. With that, I would like to recognize our Director General S.N. Javed to say a few words.
Hello. All right. If I'm being honest, this moment almost feels surreal. I mean, I can almost imagine myself as a young boy sitting in this very crowd 4 years ago, waiting on my first ACMUN conference, watching as these seemingly mythical seniors with their colored blazers and ties stepped forward and delivered speeches which made your goosebumps stand up, poured out their hearts into their words, which, if I'm being honest, I did not understand then. But as I stand here, 30 minutes from the last event of my school life, drawing a conclusion to a 4-year journey where new friendships were made, where my journey from the sidelines to this podium started, where Director Promotions turned to Director General, I can almost feel this position slip away with each word I utter. But while I've undoubtedly reached my destination by successfully concluding my edition of ACMUN, I can't help but reminisce on the countless lessons I've learned throughout this journey. I learned humility when I saw gentlemen admitted to some of the best universities in the world, shedding tears over the society as if it was a part of their identity. I learned dedication when I saw more than 60 people staying in school until 11 at night to conduct an online conference during a pandemic, not for personal benefit, but just for the sake of making sure that the legacy of ACMUN stayed alive. I learned confidence from the pat Vase gave me after my first camp speech. I learned pride from when Abbas mentioned my name in this very Director General address at ACMUN Next. And when I entered the conference room a week from ACMUN last week, I learned happiness. Because when I looked at everyone in the room, every face was the image of genuine concern. And in this setting of concentration and work, I could see Saad at the back, whispering something to Isa while showing his phone, which made Isa crack his smile. I could see Ali sitting at the front of the table with his head attached, clutched in his hands, while Hassan met my eyes and we both tried to control our laughter. Because we were used to Ali's angry, sad or happy outbursts and we couldn't tell what was coming. The point is, when I looked at the room that day, I saw the society as it was. A group of teenagers working for an event as if their life depended on it. And what brought me joy was that 4 years in the society had brought fruition to genuine relations with these hard-working gentlemen, to the point where everyone held each other's backs, empathized with one another's feelings, and worked as a single unit. I coined a phrase then and there, which by the way I was made fun of, but which I still stand steadfast by. It was that ACMUN is not an event, it is a people. And now that my time on this podium comes to an end, I'd like to express my gratitude to them for helping me make some of the best memories I've had in HSN College. I understand that you guys must be getting impatient because obviously you're here to win awards, so I'll not take your time and just depart with some pieces of advice which I wish I had known when I was young and I also wanted to compete at ACMUNs. To my juniors who are going to conduct future conferences, I say, always keep your destination in your mind, but never forget the journey that you went through to reach those very destinations. Most importantly, to the delegates, without whom this conference would not have been possible. To those of you who spoke, I hope you got a chance to condition your skills, better your ability, and learn something new from experiencing this kind of debate in this unique setting which we call HSN College. And finally, and most importantly, to the delegates who could not speak. If there ever came a time during this 4-day conference that you felt the urge to rise up, express your opinion on a topic, defend your country as if it represented you and not your allotment, your time in this conference was not a waste. Because once we get over this mental barrier, I guarantee you that 99% of the work is already done. And trust me, every mental or physical step that you take towards the podium puts you above thousands of others who have shied away from doing so. Keep working and your perseverance will command success. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Essen, for that speech. Next, we'll have the General Secretary of the ACMUN Society, Hassan Agar.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone who joins us physically and virtually. Honorable Chief Guest, worthy Principal, thank you for those words. Essen, don't know how I'll continue after those, but before I go ahead with my speech, I'd just like to preface that this is the first time I'm not actually bound by a time limit, so please allow me to really condense the journey I've been on for the past 4 years and the lessons I've learned, and to put, or at least to the best of my capabilities, try and put the love I have for the society and the brethren that I formed with the people who sit on my left into words. So first, let's commemorate the excellent discourse that we've had over the course of the past 4 days, essentially exploring the long-lasting effects of colonialism, neo-colonialism, and the terror networks in Africa, actually, which was quite an intriguing topic, excuse me. When you see a 14-year-old, a part of the host team, come up and talk about neo-colonialism, Boko Haram, ISIS, with such conviction that yes, they have reached the solution, you are naturally amazed and spellbound. So give yourselves a huge round of applause for putting up with the sessions, the rigorous sessions actually that we have planned out, and thank you for being part of this conference. I actually have a paper in front of me. Because of my previous 2 showings on the podium, I tried to be impromptu, but this time I'm not. I'm going to make this one count. So here we go. Firstly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank some people working behind the scenes whose work probably goes unrecognized, but they're the ones setting up the conference, the Executive Council's eyes and ears, the Works and Sanitation Department, the sweepers, the peons, Jabbar Saab at the office staying late at night. Last but certainly not the least, Bakar Saab with his printing. The flexes that you saw outside the committee, the flex that you see today, it's all Bakar Saab and Haris Bhai for the amazing dinner that we had last night. You've made ACMUN complete for us as a collective for the past 4 editions, which you've been a part of, making us learn through your experiences, making us learn the lessons of persistence and gratitude. Right, so while I was thinking as to what I'll say, to my juniors, and to you who join us today. After I cleared Barry yesterday and I took the route from Pipel Avenue to the dinner, well, the obvious lesson that came to mind was that of tangibles and intangibles. Something that I've talked about quite often. So, essentially, as I said in my EC video as well, and in the note I wrote for you in the Delegate Guidebook, the one thing that I've learned through my mining career is that tangibles, the gavels and the shields set behind me, eventually do give in, because that's the way that they're built. My mom has probably boxed up all my trophies and I don't know where they are at this point, but the lessons that I've learned through the journeys I've been on to accomplish what I've accomplished, even though that may be little, are the memories actually that come rushing back whenever I think of my time at ACMUN. So I hope that what you've done in these past 4 days, or actually what you strive to do, is to strike a perfect balance between the desire of winning an award and to create memories that will last a lifetime. Because I've made some genuine friendships with people among the crowd here today that listen to me. So I hope that is what you've done, and I hope that is what brought you to this conference. So that was the first lesson, but I've talked about this quite often and I continued pondering. And as I was walking down the Pipel Avenue, a small boy appeared, curly-haired, shoes squeaky clean, and his pants higher than usually we're supposed to wear that, because he was wearing the belt for the first time. And I walked up to him. He was talking to his mother. And seeing the look of tension and perplexion on my face as I moved towards the dinner, something we had put a lot of effort in. As I walked towards him, he just says to me, "Bhai, tension na le, sab theek ho jayega." So essentially, Mr. Principal, he said, everything will work out, don't worry too much. And that small curly-haired boy, then after saying this, disappeared in thin air. It was me, 14-year-old, walking into ACMUN 8, saying this exactly as I said it, to Shibrez, the Secretary General at that time, who was rushing towards the old building. And that was a moment of realization for me. Now the steps are in slow motion and I'm still walking. And I was humming to the sounds of the new song that Coke Studio has released, Tu Jhoom. And the lyrics that came into mind then were just simply, "Jo bhi hoga tera, mil jayega, karke koi bahana." So essentially, what that means is, whatever is yours will find you, no matter the obstacles that you face. So that's my final message that I want to leave with you today. Without really delving into philosophical debate, do everything you do for the intent, not for the consequence. That's the way it always was. The realization came to me a bit late, actually last year, when I realized that all of this was about to come to an end. But trust me, it makes the journey more worthwhile. So there's a few people, or actually the society, that I have to thank first for making me realize this when it did. So to ACMUN, I've written a note down for you. To ACMUN, I'd say thank you, and that you may stay forever young, for I will find my way back to you eventually. I leave behind good, competent juniors to take care of you, probably better than I ever could. Treat them well. The other contingent that I want to thank, whom I've spent time with and who've made me realize the same thing eventually, I could not have gotten off the podium without mentioning you gentlemen. So inshallah, boys played well, my brethren. I could not have gotten off without mentioning you. So it is the moments I've spent with you in the past 2 years that I will cherish the most. Your laughter acts as a fuel every time I'm down. Your advice is what I take whenever I need it or whenever I'm in trouble. I'm nothing but grateful for the lessons you've taught me and continue to teach me. So at this hour, from ACSET to ACMUN and beyond, I've been waiting quite a while to say this. I hope we can say together in tandem that Alhamdulillah, the boys have indeed played well. So with that, at the end of probably what has been quite a long sermon, I'm really sorry for all those waiting. Continuing the tradition of one-liners by the sectants set in the past, I shall take a line from Mr. Langlands, whom you might have heard about at the college tour yesterday, that really encapsulates the spirit of what ACMUN is and of what HSN tries to instill in you. In just 4 words, be good, do good. That is the final message I have for you. And finally, with a very heavy heart and a bittersweet feeling, with the permission of my president, I am pushing the stop button on the timer that Ali started at the opening. When I say, I, Hassan Olak, the 12th Secretary General of the ACMUN Society, declare this conference closed for debate. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Hassan, for that emotional speech. Now, introducing our chief guest, Dr. Kamran Ali Afzal, who is an old boy graduating in 1987. After passing out of ITSIN, he joined Government College Lahore, where he received his bachelor's and master's in economics. Later, he went to the University of Melbourne, from where he earned his master's in public policy and then PhD in political economy. Dr. Kamran also taught the CSS examinations. He now serves as the Chief Secretary of Punjab. Please grace us with a few words, sir.
Thank you very much for these very kind words, young man. One of the banes of my life have been that rostrums are built too high for my height. So I'd have to step on this so I become visible. So I hope I'm visible now. This has been a continual problem whenever I stand behind rostrums. I've spent a lifetime behind them, so I'm pretty comfortable, but the step is necessary. Principal, HSN College, Headmistress Senior School, Faculty of HSN, Extonians, our delegates from abroad. For me, it's a great pleasure and a privilege to be standing behind rostrum at HSN after 28 years. The last time I was here in this amphitheater was 1993. I still remember that day. I came here to thank my teachers, my benefactors, my school, who have contributed the most in my life. Whatever position I've gained today, I think I owe it to Allah, to my parents, and to my teachers, who taught me a lot. Not just in class, not just the academics, not just Shakespeare, not history, not physics, not chemistry, but the values they taught me. And not by speaking about values, but by practicing them, which is the most difficult part. They taught us by their own character. If I go back in time, I would like to mention Major Azhar. I do not know whether any one of you sitting here has heard of him or not, but those whose parents have been at HSN, they must have heard about him. The finest of gentlemen, the finest of teachers, and very, very eloquent. He could actually paint pictures with words. You could see paintings rise before you when he would speak. And then Sayyid Amir Hussain. Again, I do not know how many of you would have heard about him, but he has contributed a lot to my life. I remember when in the 6th grade I first stood up to speak. It was a lot of effort to stand back from the dais so that my wobbling legs wouldn't hit it and it would fall over. That was my greatest fear. And after that, about 6 years, when I was offered the character of Napoleon in The Man of Destiny, that was Aitchison's centenary, 1986. And I wasn't selected for my accomplishments, not at all. It was my height. They said it was very Napoleonic. So I was selected, a lot of effort. It was an hour on stage and I had to learn by heart the entire dialogue. And Mubashir Lapan, who is one of the leading anchors these days, he was our director and he was very cruel. He said, we're not going to use mics. You have to speak from the innermost parts of your lungs. And for that you would have to rehearse, you would have to speak loud while jogging. So he made me jog for 4 kilometers every day and rehearse the dialogue so that we could speak from the stage in the junior school hall, and I assure you that the last person sitting in the last row would be able to hear us. Now, this was a good 6 months, and the play went very well. But the problem after that was that for about 2 odd months, I couldn't come out of that character. I thought I was Napoleon. And I had to convince myself, and a lot of friends had to tell me, no, that's over, so you're not there anymore. So that was that. Now, debates in our times were very different. They were much lower in standard, to be honest, than they are now. They were mostly declamations. We used to write them down and we used to learn them by heart and then simply speak. And the emphasis was on rhetoric, much more on rhetoric than on logic. But from what I understand now, and I must congratulate the principal, Aitchison, all our delegates and the United Nations for bringing the standards of debate much closer to the real world, where the emphasis is on logic, on argument, but of course, rhetoric. Rhetoric remains a pivotal aspect of the power to convince. The most important part in a person's ability to speak is not to impress, but to convey as closely as possible the thoughts. So it's the thoughts which are important. That is what should be driving the forces that shape the world. I wish I was here to see how this debate and this conference went on. I would have learned from this, but having heard the last 2 speakers on stage, I am much convinced that the standards were very high. It was extempore, they were not reading from the papers, and the argument was flowing. So I'm really very, very, very impressed. Now, I think I've spoken more than I should have, but there's one thing, the message that I always want to leave children behind with. All of you, I do not know how many of you realize this, but you belong to the privileged strata of society. From whichever country you have come from, you have been studying in schools that are elitist. Your societies have brought you that level. Let this sense of privilege never translate into a sense of entitlement. Let it always be an obligation on you and indebtedness to pay back to the societies wherever you have come from, whether it's whether it's Pakistan, whether it's India, whether it's any European country, you have a debt to pay back to your people, because you're here because of them. You may not realize in the years of youth how many people would have contributed, but they have, and you have a debt to pay back. And the second thing, which I always wouldn't say advise, but urge, it is not your family that should define you in life. It is your values. Build your values. It has come as a great sense of comfort and consolation that the two young men spoke of values. Let truth define you. Let honesty define you. It's easy for me to speak and perhaps for you to listen, but when the time comes and the challenge comes, it's not easy. I assure you it is not easy. Life begins to elude you in heartaches and heartbreaks, but that is the testing moment. And I have the confidence that you will stand up to time when it comes. Once again, thank you very much for having me here. It's been a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We request the principal to present the chief guest with the token of appreciation. Now I invite our principal to say a few words.
Dr. Kamran Ali Afzal, thank you, sir, for joining us as chief guest. There were a number of things that we can all take from that address, and I'm going to leave your words to echo around this amphitheatre rather than me going on at great length. But the points about values, the points of difference between rhetoric and logic, the points of difference about privilege and using it wisely and sensibly and giving back are very much the theme of this college, and I'm sure every good school in Pakistan. Thank you very much, sir. I'm also equally impressed that you're a graduate of Melbourne University. I can imagine with you the spires and the leafy gardens of Carlton and Parkville around there. The last thing I want to leave you with is not a long speech, but a thank you to all the schools who have participated. Without you being here, nothing can happen. And the wonderful thing about schools is coming together, sharing, making friendships, and discussing. And if I were to leave one thing this afternoon is the sadness in my time as I've seen perhaps intolerance towards discussion and argument and difference. You should be able to disagree with somebody and listen and consider without cancelling them. We are in an academic world. And one of the signs of a good education is to listen to something you totally disbelieve, but keep your cool and keep your logic. Thank you for coming to HSM College. Thank you for making this such a special occasion. Well done to the boys and staff who ran the event.
Now, delegates, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the awards. We will call the chairs one by one to announce their committee's awards. Firstly, for PMCC, we have Zain Manik Ali Gondal.
Delegates, a few weeks back, standing on this very podium there at the Shabeen Khan Hall, I claimed to be taking the last speech that I could give at Eastern College. But how the turntables. Having said that, I wrote a few points. I'll just be a little quick with those points. From changing the course of history to becoming the only Prime Minister of Pakistan to ever complete his term, to eventually getting myself hanged for rather peculiar reasons, I truly experienced a plethora of emotions chairing my first and last committee in the ACMUN Society. With that being said, I'll be announcing the awards. First of all, we have 3 SMs. You're requested to stand up from your seats to be recognized. We have the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. The second special mention goes to the Interior Ministry. The third special mention goes to the Ministry of Narcotics. Moving on to the Honorable Mention Awards. Again, you're requested to stand up. First of all, we have the Attorney General of Pakistan. The second HM goes to the Chief of the Federal Security Forces. The third honorable mention goes to the Minister of Railways, which he was attending online, so that's an expectable achievement. The last HM goes to the Advisor of Institutional Reforms and Austerity. Now I request the Principal and Chief Guest to hand out the Outstanding Diplomacy Awards in the Best Delegate. In order of increasing precedence, the Outstanding Diplomacy Award goes to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. The second and last Outstanding Diplomacy Award goes to the Director General of ISI. And the best delegate for ACMUN XII for the PMCC goes to the Ministry of Defense. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Zain Gondal signing off. Godspeed and God luck.
Alright delegates, next we have the Balkan Wars Crisis, which was chaired by Salim Sarfaraz and my co-director registrations, Adi Kuram.
Assalamualaikum everyone. My A1 committee was a bit different than I thought it would be. With motions going unspoken and placards majorly going unraised. There are 4 awards in the crisis cabinet this year, 2 special mentions and 2 honorable mentions, with no outstanding diplomacy or best delegate awards. The 2 special mentions in no order of precedence go to, firstly, an online delegate, the Ministry of Climate Change. The second special mention goes to the Ministry of Science. This is the original ministry that we were going for, and now my co-chair will announce the honorable mentions.
I understand why the cancelling of the OD and the BD might be found as a disappointment for some of you, but the committee did not live up to the expectations that I had from my ACMUN. The HMs for this committee in no particular order are the Minister for Communications, and secondly the Foreign Ministry.
For the next committee at ACMUN, we have the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, whose chair is Sikandar Mateen.
This year, being one of the hardest committees at ACMUN 12, I am proud to say that I was chair NATO. With that, I would specially thank the delegate of KSA, who was basically Azerbaijan, for giving information in the committee. With that, we have 5 special mentions in no particular order. Delegate of Portugal, which was Tajikistan. Delegate of Montenegro. Delegate of United Kingdom, which was previously Belgium. Delegate of Iraq, and the delegate of Syria. With that, we have 5 honorable mentions. Delegate of Ukraine, which was previously Slovenia. Delegate of Italy, delegate of Iran, delegate of Canada, and delegate of Germany, which was previously Norway. With that, we have 2 outstanding diplomacies in no particular order. We have firstly the delegate of France, The second outstanding diplomacy award goes to the delegate of the Russian Federation. With that, the best delegate for NATO is the delegate of the United States of America. Thank you.
For the next committee at ACMUN, we have the Office on Drugs and Crime, which was chaired by Mia Fareed Said, and my co-director registrations, Adil Ahmed Irfan Khan.
Alright, delegates, before we get to the awards, I just want to thank each and every single one of you for making my first time chairing extremely special to all the delegates in ODC. Secondly, I have 3 extremely important people to thank. Aiz Razak, Abir Anand, and Ahmed Riaz, who were the backbone of my dais, which goes to show how C2s and C1s are the backbone of this event. With that, we'll be going to the SMs and HMs. Firstly, for the SMs, we have the delegate of Portugal, who was an online delegate. Next, we have the delegate of Spain. On to the honorable mentions. These are in increasing precedence. Firstly, we have the delegate of South Africa. Next, we have the delegate of Brazil, who is also an online delegate. Next, we have the delegate of Russia, who was originally Armenia. Next, we have delegate of Palestine, followed by the last honorable mention, which is the delegate of France. Now, I'll invite my co-chair, Philippe, to share the rest of the awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Adil. This year, we only have one outstanding diplomacy award, and that goes to the delegate of China. And the Best Delegate Award for the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime goes to the Delegate of the United States of America.
Next for Stockholm, we have Maya Sakan.
Before proceeding straight to the awards, I just have one quote to share with you, which a very important person once shared with me. Winning is very important, even the most important thing at times. But there's no point winning if you don't have people to celebrate it with. Alright, proceeding straight to the awards for Stockholm, we'll have 3 special mention awards, 5 honorable mention awards, 3 outstanding diplomacy awards, and 1 best delegate. The first special mention goes to the delegation of Vatican City. The second special mention goes to the delegation of Luxembourg, who was an online delegate. The third and last special mention goes to the delegation representing Armenia. Going to the honorable mentions now, our first honorable mention goes to the delegation of Syria. Our second honorable mention is another online delegate, the delegation of Portugal. The next HM goes to the delegation of Sri Lanka. And the last and final honorable mention for Stockholm goes to the delegation of South Korea. Alright, straight to the outstanding diplomacies now. Our first outstanding diplomacy goes to the delegation of Palestine. With that, our second outstanding diplomacy goes to the delegation of France. The third and final Outstanding Diplomacy Award for SOCM goes to the delegation of the United States of America. The Best Delegate Award for the Social, Humanitarian and Cultural Committee at ACMUN this year goes to the People's Republic of China. Thank you.
Next up, we have the Futuristic Security Council, which will be chaired by our Charge d'Affaires and head boy Sadat.
Before I go straight on to the awards, I would like to thank Daniel, Abdullah, Ahmed Arif Piracha, Rahim Afzal and Hassan Fawad, the best guys I could have asked for my last one. Moving on to the special mentions in no particular order, please stand at your seat to get recognized. The first special mention goes to Pakistan, who has joined us online. The second special mention goes to Latvia. The third special mention goes to Iran. The fourth special mention goes to Syria. Moving on to the honorable mentions, in no particular order, the first honorable mention goes to the delegation of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who are originally the United States of America. The second honorable mention goes to the delegation of Israel. The third honorable mention goes to Crimea. And the last honorable mention goes to the delegation representing China. Moving on to the Outstanding Diplomacy Awards, again in no particular order. The first Outstanding Diplomacy Award goes to the delegation of Gaza, who have joined us online. The second Outstanding Diplomacy Award goes to the Russian Federation. The third Outstanding Diplomacy Award goes to the dual delegation of Bosnia. And the last Outstanding Diplomacy Award goes to the delegation representing Mexico, which were originally Spain. And lastly, the Best Delegate Award, which was won by the Independent Territories of Kashmir. Thank you.
Furthermore, we have SPECPOL, which was chaired by our Charge d'Affaires, Isa Iqbal, and Director General S. N. Tabe. We invite Isa to announce the awards.
Chairing SPECPOL at ACMUN 12 was very bittersweet. From presenting one of the best working papers to presenting one of the best resolutions to discussing implications of private military companies, this will be embedded in my heart forever. Before announcing the awards, I would like to thank my committee director, Rayan Ahmed, and my assistant committee director, Ibrahim Usman. Without further ado, I will be announcing the first special mention, which goes to the delegate of Finland. Next up, we have this special mention, which goes to the delegate of Netherlands. Next up, we have the special mention, which goes to a delegate who is online, delegate of Latvia. Lastly, the special mention goes to the delegate of Vietnam. Moving on to the honorable mentions. In no particular order, firstly we have the delegate of Ireland. Next up, we have the delegate of the United States of America. Moving on to the Outstanding Diplomacy Awards in the order of increasing precedence. Firstly, the Outstanding Diplomacy Awards goes to the delegate of Germany, who was online. Next up, the Outstanding Diplomacy Award goes to the delegate of China. The Best Delegate Award for this year of the Special Political and Decolonization Committee goes to the delegate of Switzerland. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Dissect, which is chaired by Secretary General Sana.
Thank you for having me as your chair, and to my DICE members, thank you for having me as your chair. The debate was really competitive. We had a tough time deciding the awards, but they're as follows. So first up, with the SMs, please stand up at the place you sit. France and Palestine. Congratulations. For the Asians, there were two delegates joining us online. Firstly, Portugal, second, Afghanistan. And the third Asian goes to Iran. Now moving on to the outstanding diplomacies. By the way, the awards are not in order of precedence. So the Outstanding Diplomacy Award goes to the delegate of the United States of America. The second Outstanding Diplomacy Award goes to the delegate of the United Kingdom. And the Best Delegate Award for Dissect this year at ACMUN goes to the delegate of China. Thank you again.
Next, we have the Security Council chaired by our President, Ali Rashid.
Thank you, delegates. I'll just be getting straight into the awards without taking any more of your time. Starting with the verbal awards,
we have one special mention which goes to the delegation of the United Kingdom. We have one honorable mention. This goes to the delegation of the United States of America. Moving on to the Shield Awards. Unfortunately, there will not be a Best Delegate Award for UNSC this year. There are two outstanding diplomacy awards. The first outstanding diplomacy goes to the delegation of the United Arab Emirates. The second outstanding diplomacy goes to two delegates who came very close to the Best Delegate Award right up until the last session, the delegation of the People's Republic of China. Delegates, we will be moving on to the awards for the Best Delegate Crisis Cell, which was known as Midnight Hour this year. Unfortunately, due to the failing of the session, there will not be a Best Diplomat of the conference. However, we have two honorable mentions. The delegates awarded the honorable mentions are requested to come up to the stage and shake hands with the principal. The two honorable mentions, in no particular order, go to the delegations of China and the delegations of Brazil.
Next, I'll invite Hassan Olak to announce the Best Online Delegation and the runners-up Best Delegation Award at ACMUN.
Right, so it's a difficult ask for anyone to participate online, especially when the physical and the online delegates are working in tandem. Right, getting to it. One of our international friends has won the best online delegation, so please give it up for La Martiniere from India. Right, so moving on to the runner-up best delegation for the physical medium, it goes to LGS 55 Main. Please make your way to the stage.
We'll now be taking a short azan break. Next up, I would like to call Arya Yashid to announce the most debated award of the night, the Best Delegation Award.
Delegates, before I get to the best delegation, there was the most precedence SM for SOCM was missed out, which goes to the delegation of Russia. Alright, delegates, I'll just be announcing the best delegation award. But before I announce it, I have just one short line to say, which is to everyone gathered here. To the people of my ACMUN society, it was fun when we were young, but now we're older. And I'd go back and ride that roller coaster with all of you. Now moving on to the Best Delegation Award. The Best Delegation goes to International School of Health.
Alright, delegates, you are all requested to remain seated as the principal and chief guest leave the hall.